Welcome back to our show. Here's a question for you. Can exercise, something that's meant to make us healthier, actually harm us?
That's right. Today, we're diving deep into the topic of exercise addiction and exploring how something so positive can sometimes cross a line.
And we have an incredible guest joining us today, Dr. Thompson, a specialist in sports medicine and mental health. Will be here to give us some expert insights. He'll join us in a few of our sessions to help us really understand this topic from a medical perspective.
Exactly. He'll share how to spot the warning signs of exercise addiction, as well as some great advice on balancing fitness and mental health.
And don't forget to stick around until the end. We've got a vocabulary takeaway with 10 essential fitness and wellness terms that you won't want to miss. So, let's get started. All right, everyone, let's jump right in. We promised you a guest who could shed some expert light on exercise addiction. And here he is, Dr. Thompson. Dr. Thompson, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Sophie and Chris. I'm excited to be here. Exercise addiction is a big topic, and it's more common than people realize.
Absolutely, Dr. Thompson. Now, just to kick things off, when we talk about exercise addiction, what does that mean medically? How do we recognize it?
Great question, Chris. At its core, exercise addiction is when physical activity shifts from a healthy habit to a compulsive behavior. People feel they have to work out, even when they're injured, tired, or should be resting. They experience withdrawal symptoms if they skip it, like anxiety, guilt, or even depression.
And I think for a lot of us, it's hard to see where that line is, right? Exercise is supposed to be good for you.
It's a balancing act. Exercise in moderation is incredibly beneficial, but when it tips into addiction, it can lead to physical harm, emotional distress, and impact one's daily life. And with social media amplifying fitness culture, the pressure only increases.
That's really eye-opening, Dr. Thompson. It makes me think about the times I've pushed myself too hard. But how would someone know if they're overdoing it?
Well, there are some red flags: feeling compelled to exercise even when it's painful, needing to work out to feel normal, and prioritizing it above relationships or responsibilities. These are signals that exercise might have become more than just a healthy routine.
That's powerful. Thank you, Dr. Thompson, for breaking that down. So in our next session, we'll dig into the physical toll exercise addiction can take. All right, so now let's dive into the mental and emotional toll of exercise addiction. We've covered the physical side, but often the internal struggles can be just as damaging.
Absolutely. And to help us really understand this, we're lucky to have Dr. Thompson back in this session. Dr. Thompson, can you walk us through the psychological side of exercise addiction?
Sure thing. Exercise addiction, particularly when it's tied to perfectionism or body image issues, can lead to obsessive compulsive behaviors. Many individuals start to feel an intense emotional dependency on exercise for their self-worth. When exercise is missed, it's not uncommon for them to experience heightened anxiety, guilt, or even depression.
That emotional attachment makes it so hard to separate from the habit, right?
Exactly, Sophie. For some, exercise becomes a coping mechanism to deal with stress or insecurities, but in the process, it can spiral into a self-punishment cycle. The more they feel they need to exercise to feel okay, the more they push themselves, even if it's detrimental.
And the way it manifests can be subtle at first. I remember a few years ago, I felt like I had to hit the gym every single day without fail. If I missed a session, I'd feel like my whole day was off. It was exhausting.
I've felt that too. There was a time I was pushing myself to keep up with a certain image, and that anxiety around my routine really got to me. It was like, if I missed a workout, it felt like I wasn't doing enough.
That's so relatable, and I'm glad you both brought that up. The emotional aspect of exercise addiction can often go unseen. Those struggling might seem physically fit and disciplined, but mentally, they're often under a lot of stress.
Dr. Thompson, what are some of the signs we should watch out for that might indicate this unhealthy relationship with exercise?
One big sign is feeling compelled to exercise despite injuries or illness, essentially putting exercise above one's health. Another is the guilt or anxiety we talked about. And if someone is prioritizing workouts over other responsibilities or relationships, it's often a red flag.
Wow, That really highlights the need to keep an eye on our mental health, not just our physical progress.
Thank you so much for sharing, Dr. Thompson. This is eye-opening, and I'm sure our listeners are starting to see exercise addiction in a whole new light.
You're welcome. It's essential to recognize the mental toll early, so anyone can step back and adjust before it becomes overwhelming.
So far, we've talked about the physical and emotional consequences of exercise addiction, but let's dive deeper into how it affects a person's relationships and lifestyle. Chris, what do you think happens when exercise takes over in someone's life, especially in terms of their social life?
Well, I've seen this with friends of mine. When someone gets really obsessed with working out, it can take over their life. I had a buddy who stopped going out with us, missed family events, everything just revolved around his gym sessions. It definitely took a toll on his relationships. You end up feeling like you're putting others second for the sake of your routine.
Exactly. And it's not just about missing out on social events. There's emotional isolation too. If someone is constantly choosing exercise over connecting with people, it can really affect how they relate to their friends and family.
Right, and you start to see people getting anxious about missing a workout. It's like they're addicted to that routine. In some extreme cases, they'll feel guilty or even worthless if they don't exercise, and that can make them prioritize working out over other important things like relationships or work.
That's so true. It's like this unhealthy cycle. The more they exercise to feel better, the more isolated they become. And that isolation only makes them cling harder to their workout habits. It's really difficult to break out of that pattern.
I think the challenge is that exercise is supposed to be a positive thing, but when you get to the point where it's impacting your social life and personal relationships, that's when it becomes a problem.
It can definitely be tricky to recognize when you're crossing that line. You don't want to become so focused on exercise that you forget to enjoy life, spend time with people, or just relax. It's important to find that balance. Welcome back, everyone. We're about to dive into a really important topic. How can we tell the difference between a healthy exercise routine and an unhealthy obsession? A lot of people get so focused on fitness that they might not realize they're going too far. Today, we're going to discuss some key signs that might help you figure out if you're in that gray area.
That's right, Sophie. It's easy to confuse a commitment to fitness with overdoing it, and sometimes it's hard to spot the difference until it's too late. Stay tuned because later in the episode, we'll be sharing 10 vocabulary words you can use in your everyday English conversations, related to exercise and health.
So, let's start by discussing what healthy exercise looks like. Chris, how do you define a healthy approach to fitness?
For me, it's about balance. A healthy workout routine doesn't dominate your life. It's about staying active without putting your body under constant strain. I try to mix things up so I don't get stuck in one routine, and I always make sure to listen to my body. If I feel like I need a rest, I take one. It's about progress, not perfection.
Right. And there's no one-size-fits-all approach. Healthy exercise should fit with your lifestyle, not consume it. But when does exercise shift from being a healthy habit to becoming obsessive?
That's where things can get tricky. One of the signs of obsessive exercise is when you feel like you have to work out, even if you're injured or sick. When your motivation shifts from feeling good to looking good, that can be a red flag.
Absolutely. And another sign is when exercise starts to interfere with your personal life or work. If you start canceling social plans or skipping important events just to get to the gym, that's when it's time to check in with yourself. Also, if you're constantly comparing your body to others, it can be a dangerous trap.
And it can even become a way to deal with negative emotions. People sometimes use exercise to punish themselves or to cope with stress, rather than as a way to feel good or stay healthy.
So, how can people regain balance? I think one key thing is to focus on the why behind your workouts. Ask yourself, are you working out because you love your body and want to feel better? Or because you feel guilty or anxious about missing a session?
Exactly, Sophie. And also, integrating rest days into your routine is essential. Many people forget that recovery is just as important as the workout itself. When you give your body time to rest, that's when it gets stronger.
For sure. And even mixing in non-physical forms of self-care can make a big difference. Like spending time with friends or doing something relaxing. Exercise is just one part of a healthy lifestyle. We hope our listeners take these insights into consideration. Exercise should be about feeling good, not about punishment or obsession. Remember to listen to your body and know when it's time to rest.
Exactly. Stay balanced and make sure your workout routine fits your lifestyle, not the other way around. We'll be back soon with more tips on staying healthy, both physically and mentally.
And don't forget to check out our vocabulary takeaway at the end of the episode. It'll help you talk about health and fitness in everyday English. In our final session today, we'll talk about how to recover and redefine our approach to exercise. If you've been struggling with exercise addiction, don't worry, recovery is possible. We're going to dive into strategies for getting back to a balanced mindset.
It's about shifting the focus from obsessing over fitness to truly nurturing our bodies and minds. But to help us understand how to make this shift, we've brought back Dr. Thompson, our expert on healthy exercise and recovery. Dr. Thompson, thank you so much for joining us again.
It's great to be back, Sophie and Chris. This topic of recovery is incredibly important, and I'm glad to have the opportunity to share some insights. It's essential to understand that exercise addiction can have serious consequences on both physical and mental health, but with the right strategies, recovery is achievable.
Dr. Thompson, could you start by explaining the first step toward recovery for someone who might be struggling with an unhealthy relationship with exercise?
Of course, the first step is recognizing that there's a problem. Often, people don't realize they've crossed the line from healthy exercise into compulsive behavior, but once you acknowledge it, the next step is to shift your focus from the number of hours you spend exercising to how you're taking care of your whole body. Recovery means balancing your exercise with proper rest, healthy nutrition, and mental well-being.
So, it's really about balance, right? Exercise can be a positive part of life, but when it becomes all-consuming, it can actually do more harm than good. How do we redefine that balance?
Exactly. Chris, let me give you a few strategies for recovery. 1. Integrating rest days. One of the most important changes is to incorporate regular rest days. Your body needs time to recover and rebuild. Without adequate rest, the risk of injury and burnout increases significantly. 2. Setting realistic goals. Focus on goals that are achievable, not perfectionist standards. For example, instead of aiming for an intense workout every day, set a goal of moving your body in a way that feels good, like going for a walk or doing yoga. Focusing on mental well-being. Recovery isn't just physical, it's essential to address any mental struggles, like guilt or anxiety, associated with missing a workout. Practices like mindfulness or therapy can help shift the mindset from a punitive one to one of self-care.
Wow, those are really actionable tips, Dr. Thompson. It seems like exercise isn't just about our muscles, it's about the mind, too.
Definitely. And it's so easy to forget about mental health when we're focused on the physical side of things. I know for myself, setting a goal that involves both rest and activity has been a game changer. It's about keeping things sustainable.
Now that we've had this insightful discussion with Dr. Thompson, let's circle back to our hook question from the beginning. Can exercise, something that's meant to make us healthier, actually harm us?
Well, after hearing everything from Dr. Thompson, we can see how exercise, when done excessively or obsessively, can indeed lead to harmful consequences like injuries, mental strain, and fatigue. It's all about balance. We need to find the sweet spot where we're benefiting from exercise without crossing into over-exercise territory.
Absolutely. It's clear that being aware of the signs of exercise addiction, like compulsive behavior or detachment from relationships, can help us strike that balance. Dr. Thompson, thank you again for sharing your expertise with us today.
It was my pleasure. I'm glad we could dive into such an important topic. Remember, exercise is a wonderful thing, but moderation is key.
Great point. So, before we wrap up today's podcast, let's take a quick moment to review the 10 vocabulary words we introduced earlier. As always, repeat after us. Ready?
Let's go! The first word is compulsive. Repeat after us. Compulsive. Meaning, an irresistible urge to do something, often without control. Example: she had a compulsive need to go to the gym every day, even when she was exhausted.
Next is Injury. Repeat after us. Injury. Meaning, harm or damage to the body. Example. He suffered an injury to his knee while lifting weights improperly.
How about fatigue? Repeat after us. Fatigue. Meaning, extreme tiredness or exhaustion, often caused by overwork. Example. After working out intensely for weeks, she began to feel fatigue set in.
Now we have recovery. Repeat after us. Recovery. Meaning, the process of returning to health or strength after illness or injury. Example. Taking rest days is essential for muscle recovery after a tough workout.
Next is obsessive. Repeat after us. Obsessive. Meaning, preoccupying one's thoughts constantly, often in an unhealthy way. Example. His obsessive focus on perfecting his fitness routine made him forget to enjoy the process.
How about balance? Repeat after us. Balance. Meaning, a state where different elements are equal or in the correct proportions. Example. She strives to maintain a balance between work, exercise, and personal time.
Next word is perfectionism. Repeat after us. Perfectionism. Meaning, the need or desire to be perfect or to make everything flawless. Example. Her perfectionism about her workout routine led her to push her body beyond its limits.
Now we have detachment. Repeat after us. Detachment. Meaning, a sense of being disconnected or distant from others or one's surroundings. Example. His detachment from social events was a result of his addiction to the gym.
Let's do mindset. Repeat after us. Mindset. Meaning, the established set of attitudes held by someone. Example. Having a healthy mindset about fitness can help you avoid the pitfalls of exercise addiction.
And finally, moderation. Repeat after us. Moderation. Meaning, the avoidance of extremes or excess in behavior or habits. Example. Exercising in moderation helps maintain both physical health and mental well-being.
Thank you for joining us today and practicing these keywords with us. Remember, finding moderation in all aspects of life is essential, especially when it comes to exercise.
Exactly. We hope today's podcast helped you learn more about exercise addiction and how to approach fitness in a healthy, balanced way.
Take care of your bodies, both physically and mentally, and always listen to what they're telling you.
That's all for today's episode. Make sure to subscribe, and we'll see you next time on Speak English with Sophie.
Stay healthy, everyone.
This is the end of today's episode, but remember, learning English doesn't stop here. There's so much more to explore, so make sure to check out our other episodes to keep your English journey going. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and stay updated with our latest lessons. Keep practicing, keep growing, and we'll see you in the next episode. Happy learning!